Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Top Cut Peoria regionals that happened this past weekend. It was 512 players and 9 rounds of Swiss into this top 16. And real quick before we get started, if you guys do enjoy these OP06 coverage videos, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It does mean a lot, and if you want to see any of the deck lists for this regional or any others from this season, make sure to check out my website, Eggman Events. So going on into this one, again, it was 512 players with this top 16. I also want to mention there was another regionals going on this same weekend in North America in Arlington, which was a 1,000-person regionals with top 32, which I'll get the deck list for those when I can. But for this one specifically, it's a 512, and it was a day one kind of situation too. So we did have 5 Katakuris, with one of them winning the event, 5 Geckos, 3 Sakazukis, 1 Newgate, 1 Yamato, and 1 copy of Nami as well. So generally what we're seeing, I feel like I'm saying every OP06 video like this, but Katakuri, Moria, and Sakazuki taking over 75% of this board, which is not too surprising, and then a couple of one-ofs sneaking in with the Newgate, Yamato, and Nami. So I think Yamato is probably the one I'm the least surprised of the 3. I think Newgate and Nami every once in a while sneak in, so to have both of them get into this top 16 is pretty impressive, especially with the Newgate and Yamato both going X1, which is really surprising. So I don't have really much more to say. I did kind of do some, like additional tagging, since there are kind of like 2 versions of Sakazuki and Moria, with just some kind of minor changes of if they're playing the stage or not, or if they're playing Rebecca Hina or not, but that's kind of like some mini tagging. But we're going to go over the top placing leader for each one of these, starting off with our first place, which is Alec's version of Katakuri. And Katakuri has been honestly on a pretty good tear for North American events. It did win this one, and it's won a couple events in the last couple weeks as well. I think the deck is just really good, and in this spot it has a lot of greatness to it. And I think something that's different about this deck right now compared to where it was in the past is that I think Katakuri was kind of in the situation where it had to find good cards in its life to be able to win, and now there's just kind of like this combination of, 1, there's more good cards that could be in the life, and 2, you just are such a consistent deck as it is that you really don't need to you can still win without even finding the good cards in life in particular. So that's something that I think is very strong with it, especially with more leaders. I think right now at 4 life and a little bit less of them being more aggressive, a lot of decks right now are more kind of based on being like removal and having that kind of control aspect, or at least cards removal, and Katakuri can usually just kind of hold that off until turn 10 and play the big moms if you get there. So that's kind of my experience with it. I think it's a really solid deck that just does very well, and sometimes you do just win the game because you have like 2 Kikunojos in your life or a beige at the right time, and you're still able to play Reject, which is still, I think, a really busted card that in combination with Lin, it just gets a lot of wins. It's very easy to set them down to 1 life, or you go up to like 5 life with Lin. Like this card is just very good right now. And then if you either get to punish them by having more life, which means you have more good cards in your life and it's harder to lose, or you put them down to 1 and then Reject just becomes online and you can just kind of win off that too. So it's a lot to kind of deal with, I think, in a deck like this, and it's been very strong. So this is Alec's list. Congratulations to their first place finish there. And moving to the Gecko Morias, we have Alexander's and Dan's version of the deck. I do have both of them out here just because they are the differences between Alexander's, I'd say, more standard version of the build here, and then we also have the additional build here with Dan running the Rebecca Hina kind of combo. I think like generally when the set first came out, a lot of people were like, oh, you got to play Rebecca with Moria. It's very good. Like the 8 drop's so fantastic. The fact that you're able to use this card to, get like off the Moria, so you get to get so much plus advantage, is really, really strong for it. And I think that my biggest issue with that in Moria specifically is that it makes sense in something like Sakazuki, which we'll see in a second, where you are able to, at 10 Dawn, use 8 drop Moria, you get the Rebecca, you get Hina, you get the reduction, and then you're able to use Houndblaze for 2 Dawn to get that extra removal, right? With this deck specifically, all your removal costs 4, specifically with the Absalom and Rob Lucci. So most of the time when you want to get removal off the Moria, you play Helmeppo and Rob Lucci, and then you get the removal from that instead, right? It's difficult for you to get kind of in the range for that, and then Rebecca is truly only for value. And it's also in a meta where I think Rebecca just gets removed very easily too. So I think it's a little bit tricky to have this card get consistent value in Moria as is, but I think I really do like Hina in the deck because being able to just play Hina into Absalom on 6 Dawn is really strong. So I think that's helpful for the deck. Rebecca is just, it's always a 1K, so you're never out of luck with it. But and if you don't have removal potential with your deck, then you do just get a lot of value off the a brand new you get to play, and then just get your 2Ks off the Rebecca. I think all that's very strong. So, but then we also have the more standard version. This is Alexander's. I would say this is very strong. The one tech add is we do have the 1 copy of the Cerberus blocker, which you can play off your leader, right? You're spending 3 Dawn to play a 2 Dawn blocker, but I can definitely see a lot of scenarios where you can play Cerberus off your leader effect, and then you can play Sabo afterwards, and you get double blockers that are really hard to remove. Obviously, it's worse in a matchup like Sakazuki, where they're able to just remove them anyways, but I think you're winning that matchup more times than not, unless they're playing the Navy vote, which is just a whole nother discussion. But it's not like the matchup you're super duper afraid of, I think, as much in Moria. But being able to just establish more blockers and just specifically a blocker off your leader, I think helps you in some other matchups, such as Katakuri at times are some weird ones. So I don't dislike it. You don't really lose anything from running it, and it's just 2-drop blockers can be obnoxious in some decks too. So I think it's a nice little add, and it's a bit of unique and obviously panned out. So congratulations to Alexander and Dan for their finishes there. Next up, we have our 2 Sakazukis. We have Edeer's and Jason's version of the build, and again, it's kind of like the split decision of do you want to play the Navy HQ or do you not want to play it, which I think is a good decision for both. The plus and minuses, the quick ones that I've been able to notice, you guys might know a little bit more, is that the Navy HQ is a little bit better for specifically Gecko Moria. It just means that with your Sakazuki leader effect and Marine Fort or Navy HQ, you're able to get -2 cost for free without any Dawn investment every turn. So by being able to do that, you can get some stuff into range for Rob Lucci, and your Houndblaze and your Alma is a little bit easier. Specifically, it means that you're able to get rid of Gecko Moria stuff. Specifically, bottom decking with Houndblaze and Alma is very good against that deck because those are resources that if they get into the trash, they get to recycle it a little bit more. You do lose some consistency. It's another potential brick in hand later in the game. So I think specifically against other matchups, you get a little bit worse, but against Moria, which is one of the more common ones, you're in a good spot. And then I'd say here's the more standard build of it here. We do have the Rebecca Hina, which again is really strong in Sakazuki specifically because you can for 8 play it off Moria, and then you still have your Amas and your Houndblaze and active, which is great too. You also have the 7-drop Borsellino in this build, which we've seen every once in a while. I think this is a bit of a tech add, but again, in lieu of having a Navy HQ, this does bottom deck 4 cost, which is great against Gecko Moria specifically, which is strong. And with leader effect, you can get rid of a Sabo, which I think can be really rough for some matchups too. So other than that, I don't really have much more to say about Sakazuki. It's been here and it's going to be here until June, but and it's going to probably keep topping until then. So congratulations to Edeer and Jason for their finishes there. And then next up, we have our 3 1-0s. So we're going to start off the Newgate by Ryan here. And this is this kind of aggressive build I've been seeing essentially since OP05. We don't really have any new cards for this deck specifically, but we want to put a good amount of cards with Rush. That includes the 4 of the Monkey D. Luffy, 2 of the Sanji from Star Deck 10, as well as the Ace from OP02. So we do have a good amount of Rush cards. I've been playing a lot of the Star Deck 13 Sabo leader, which is completely different, but it's very good at producing a lot of cards with Rush on the board, and have, it's really easy to kind of bypass your opponent's removals by just putting the card back into your life, and then you get it back next turn. So because of this, I can see definitely Sakazuki can have a hard time dealing with all these Rush cards and any other of these 4 life leaders as well. I do think that Gecko Moria can have a little bit more success with it, just because you are kind of inclined to, one, not only be a 6k attack whenever you attack, so you can use your leader ability, but also that extra life does help a bit. But on the flip side, they produce a lot of 5k bodies, which means it's a little bit trickier for Newgate to get into that. But then you also can Moria into blockers and just kind of everything else. So I think this is a bit of a tech choice for it, but I think it's very strong for Newgate to have this aggressive pressure still, and it's not too too surprising for me to see that at tops, especially since without knowing the data outright, I'm going to assume that maybe like 20-ish people brought the deck. So one going X1, I think, is a fantastic finish for it. So I don't have the actual leader statistics, and I probably never will. But based off that guess, I think that's really impressive in the first place. So it's a deck that people still have to respect. And I think the other thing, too, with it being kind of a unique leader in this way, not everyone was, everyone who's playing right now, not everyone has been through the Newgate metas, which means they don't know specifically the way to play against the deck, which means you do get that extra advantage against maybe some newer or players who are only really experienced in the OP05 and OP06 meta too. So anyways, I don't have really much more to say, but congratulations to Ryan with their X1 finish with Newgate. Next up, we have Yamato. So this is Travis's build for it here, and I would say this is more of kind of like the aggressive build of it in its prime. We don't have like any of the green package. We don't have any of the 8-drop kid. We do have the tech ad of the Trafalgar Law, which I've tried to play this card a little bit. There are some really good combos that you are able to make with this, not only being a 5/6 blocker, but also being able to return something and play another 3 costs from your hand. This can refresh skills like Nami. Sure, you can put Mihawk back in your hand and play it again. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this deck. You can even put like an Ohm back or something like that. I don't know if you put Ohm back, but you can play it again if you need to. But yeah, just having a 5/6 blocker. A lot of players were playing Momo at the beginning of the meta because it was not only a 5/6 blocker, but also let you kind of put a card from your board into your life, which was nice. But I think with Trafalgar Law specifically, you're able to get some additional ads, which is also why we're playing Ezo. Being able to play this off your Trafalgar Law means you can rest something, which means you can go in, which is really nice. And again, like the Nami off your leader is really good in its own spot too. So I think all that can help the deck. Otherwise, we just kind of see the pieces we normally see. Hody Jones has been quite the tear, and Nell has been very strong as well. I think the new 5-drop ace from the star deck will probably replace this Anel moving forward, since you're almost always going to be at 2 or less life in this leader, and it's a 7k for 5. The protection effect really doesn't matter when you're just trying to go for game. And yeah, the Kiko Nojo, and then our 0-cost event, and the Marus as well. No rejects, which is really interesting. I think that's kind of one of the premier cards that people are playing around, but at the same time, I think Yamato sometimes has issues with reject, and like Amuro just kind of is the better one more times than not. But Hody Jones is really great, and the fact that you can't use Hody Jones and reject in the same turn, since it's an 11 Dawn play, could be the reason it came out of this deck, just because I could see just a lot of times like you have to choose which one you pick, and they neither really feels like a winner. So I don't know. Hody is really great. If you already have like the board and tempo, being able to slam this guy down and get rid of all your opponent's blockers and still attack in is very, very strong for this deck. So I don't have much more to say, but congratulations to Travis for their finish with Yamato. And to finish it off, we do have a single copy of Nami. I believe we'll find out very soon that Arlington also had a Nami finish. So we had one Nami finish on both of our North American regionals this weekend. But I wish I had more to say. It's just the build that we've been looking at pretty much since like OP03. The new ad for this one has been the addition of White Snake and OP06. Counter up to one of your leaders or characters gains plus 1k power during this turn, and you get to draw a card. So you become a 6k leader and you get to draw a card. So kind of like another copy of Love Mellow, but the difference is that it's a 6k. So there are a lot of decks, specifically Moria, that kind of has like this army of 5ks. So being able to use White Snake to say, you know what, I'm a 6k now, and now you have to kind of change your trajectory, I think is very strong. So that helps out the deck a lot. Other than that, it's just kind of what we've been seeing, I'd say, generally. So Nami being kind of like the same thing as Newgate, where it's a very specific deck that you have to play specifically against. And if you are a player who's been really into OP05 and OP06, you might not have survived or played Nami before, and that's a bit of an advantage to the Nami and Whitebeard players, where you have this kind of like almost gimmick where if they know how to play against you correctly, they have a shot, but you get a lot of free advantage because your opponent doesn't know what's going on, which I think is nice. So I don't have much more to say. Congratulations to Chandler for their finish there, and that's going to be it for this breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you again for Top Cut for running the event and also letting me have these deck lists for you guys as well, and anything else you guys can check out on my website. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.